Hello! Alright, this is the video where I show you what I've done with a lot of what Ethan sent in that fabulous box. Although I do admit that as of this recording, I haven't even started editing that box opening video, so greetings from the past. I forgot to mention, I did some unplanned paint stripping, and I forgot to put gloves on the first few things I stripped, so my fingernails are actually kind of... I acknowledge how grungy they are. It's just the paint that I did not want to use more paint stripper to get rid of, so my fingernails are clean. They're just painted on the wrong part, so please don't judge me harshly. Okay. First thing I'm going to show you is what I made as thanks, and it's this with my beloved die cutter, a nice slouchy Ken-sized bomber jacket, and I'm making this a complete outfit. I'm going to make pants and shirt, and hopefully by the time this video is edited and posted I will have finished this and sent this. If not, a spoiler. So that's that out of the way, and then no real order to what I'm going to show you with the dolls, other than the first one I'm going to show you is not finished, and who knows when she will be. I've had this head set aside to reroute with pink for years. I had it with a made-to-move body, and part of the reason I was delaying working on that is because I would have to have routed out the neck opening to get it to work with a modern body. But when I took the Malibu Barbie head off of this body, it's like, I want to try it with this reproduction head, and it's of course it's a good match. I mean, the color is off, but that's fine. So who knows when I will actually get around to rerouting this one. But I do feel a little more enthusiastic about her now that I have her on a standard body, straight leg body, than when I was going to have to edit the head to make it work with the made-to-move body. Which means freeing up the made-to-move body happened when I took that head off of it, and I could edit that out. That was very awkward wording, but I've like started trying to record this video like about 6 times already, and I'm just going to go on even when I say bizarre things like that. So that freed up the made-to-move body, and I did the most unimaginative thing ever and put the Odile Mermaid pale head on that body. I know lots of people have done this, but it's a combination that works. And I have been doing a lot of doll sewing lately, and this is one of the dresses I sewed. I did not specifically sew it for a doll with this head on this body, because when I started sewing that, I had this head actually on a different body. But I'm of course happy with this combination of this head and this body and this dress. Maybe not the hair, but hairstyling is not my strong point. I am actually genuinely tempted to cut her hair short, but I just haven't committed to it yet. So that is where the Odile head went. And then the Malibu Barbie head that was on that straight leg body, I put onto a modern extra body. And I did use the Dremel to open up her neck opening. And I expected I would have to do the bread tag thing, but the extra body neck pegs, the discs on top, are just a little bit bigger, so actually this head fits on this body with no other modifications necessary besides making the neck opening bigger. And it was easy to figure out how big to make it because the inset part that has the copyright information, just drill all that away, grind all that away. And so I got her on this body, and initially I had an issue dressing her, but I realized that I just didn't like her peachy orangey lips, so I actually repainted her lips pink, and she's still Malibu Barbie, but I think that this will be the Malibu Barbie example that I keep for a while. And I do need to go over her hair with more heat. Right now it's a heat set from boiling water. I need to actually get the mini iron and the damp washcloth because I don't have a flat iron and can't smooth things out that way, but I do have a method to try to smooth all the flyaway frizzies, but she's good enough for now. And then, in addition to the Malibu Barbie, there was that Malibu Francie, whose head, as I noted in the video, the face vinyl had faded in spots. And I don't have the kind of marker that you can use to touch up faded vinyl, and also I do have an example of Malibu Francie with a nice, fully non-zombie vinyl head. So I took that head off and put it aside and cleaned up the body, because the body was in really good shape, and thought that I would also put it aside for the future when I had a tanned head that would work with the body. But then I thought, for a laugh, what if I put that tan Odile mermaid head on the Francie body? And it's not great, the neck is really short, but I got such a teen skipper vibe from her that I decided to keep the combination, at least for now. And she got another dress I made. Actually, this inspired me to finally draft a pattern block bodice that was Francie size specifically, because for years I've been making do with squeezy Francie and Momoko into Blythe size clothes, and they're just a little bit broader across the shoulders. So anyway, so I'm pretty happy with this combination, and I'm happy that it inspired me to actually get the bodice worked out for Francie. So that's her. And I don't know how fast it's going to go. I'm trying to go through it fast because I feel like there's so much here, but I also felt like there was so much in the box opening. But then when I looked at it when I put the files on the computer, again, I haven't edited it, it's like, oh, there's not as much here as I thought there was. So this might be a whirlwind. I could have slowed down, but I'm not going to. I didn't really put these dolls down in any order. The Dolly Darling, I was going to just take off her little jumper and make a skirt to go over the shirt she was wearing, but the shirt was not well made. It was glued together at the back opening, and the glue was coming apart in some places, so I just went ahead and made this super quick little all rectangles and ribbons dress for her. I might make something more elaborate in the future. I'm just not fond of sewing really small stuff. That said, I did get it in my head that the Dream Ella Yasmin should have a kimono. And I learned a lot about making kimono from the Dolly Dolly Volume 24 that's on the Internet Archive, patterns that I have. I did not use a pattern for this, I just referred to the patterns and used them to guide me in cutting the cloth out directly for this. And there's her obi. And the, like most MGA dolls, she's a little curvy to really work properly with the kimono. And also has a super short abdomen, or torso, which also weird with kimono. But I think it worked out pretty well for her. I also went over the tops of her eyes with black paint to lower the eyelid a little bit so she's not staring quite as much. Because the body on these little Dream Ella dolls is a fairly mature body, but I thought the faces were very childlike. So I was hoping that altering the eyes like that would help make her look a little more mature. Also, another reason I chose a kimono for her is because I don't have any shoes that really fit this body well. So she can just have no shoes and you can't tell because the kimono is long. Again, this is not perfect, but I did learn from the Japanese doll magazines and I feel like it's pretty good. And then the Chase Midge head, I just put on an old Articulated Fashionista's body and dressed her goofy because it's Midge, come on. And then the Kira head that John had painted had a big rub on the lip, and I know I could have taken the time to mix paint match to touch that up, but the lip color was also a very orangey brown neutral color that, you know, isn't really my thing. So this is actually when I painted the Malibu Barbie's lips. It's because I already had the paint out to go over this doll's lips with a pink end. So that's her. I think it turned out pretty well. So I dressed her in all sorts of pink. As with the Malibu Barbie, I had dressed her according to matching with the lip color she originally had, and it was okay outfit, but when I got it to pink, it's like I can just throw just about anything from my dolly wardrobe on to a doll with pink lips, and it works. So I'm very happy with the way that turned out. I don't think John will mind me painting over his paint. You better not. So there she is. And I hear the child starting to talk to a friend, so you might start hearing maniacal laughter in the background at some point, but it's fine. And then the other John paint doll I've done something with was the Fresh Dolls. And really what I did is I made a dress for her. Actually, okay, I did not make this dress specifically for her. Originally, I was using a doll pattern that I already had, but I forgot that the seam allowances should have been 1/4 inch, and I made them a little bit larger. So I realized it was too big to fit a standard Barbie body, but Fresh Dolls are just a little bit bigger, so I tried this dress on her, and the fit is perfect. So that's where she ended up. Oh. These vintage knockoff shoes don't really fit any modern doll at all, so I'm surprised and delighted by how well they do kind of fit the Fresh Doll's body, even if they are falling off constantly. And just a reminder of her fun face paint. Yes, camera, that's correct, that is a face. And this is some of the fabric that Queen of Squids sent. So is what was on the 2 Odile dolls. Yeah, I think that's, yeah. So that's how she is at the moment. So I'm really happy with this dress on this doll. And I'll just go for the other Queen of Squids dress fabric doll right now, and that's the Lulu Pop, which Queen of Squids did send the base fabric that I used for this dress, but I just put so much extra stuff on it. The base print is just the girl on the phone with the cat, and everything else, well, it's sitting on a rug. I added just decal after decal after decal, starting with the basic heat transfer vinyl purple star and heart, which the stars and hearts I cut with the die cutter also. I started with those because honestly the way this girl's butt is drawn is rather disturbing. It's excessively round and there's like cross-hatching shadows, and it's just, I had to cover it up because the rest of it was so cute, and then I just kept going and going and going, and so it is as ridiculous, I think, as the doll. It's not quite the same color pink as her skin tone, but it's close, because I think I mentioned in the opening that this doll is pink, which probably makes me like her better than if she had been a more natural looking skin tone. And her little lopsided smile does help too. So I will eventually do a comparison of Lulu Pop with an LOL OMG, because everybody thinks that Lulu Pop are knockoff of LOL OMG, and they are heavily inspired, and I want to say, but they're not the same at all, except the shoes I found to put on her are LOL OMG, so they are similar, but so that's Lulu Pop. And then there was the Kern head that was on the Descendants body. And I knew the first thing I was going to do was put that Kern head on an old style articulated Kern body. And this is her, because the old Kern face just has something that the modern Kern that I have does not. So this is not a new dress. I made this dress years ago. I did make the dress that I have on the new Kern. I mean, let's see if I can get these two lined up and looking at the camera. So you can see the difference in the style of their face paint. This is also a modern collector Kern, so maybe she's just supposed to be smaller headed and more serious looking, but it's just not as nice as the old Kern. So I did originally put this head on the Descendants body that this head had been on. It didn't really work out too well, so I transferred it to this Chenille body, which is what the Odile skipper had been on. I mean, I've been playing a lot of head swapping lately, and this is a dress that I made recently. So that's the Kern situation. But then I did take the Descendants body and I put this head on it. This is a head that I have had for years and has been hopping from body to body to body for years, and I've never really been happy with it. I think there's a dressing dolls video from a few years ago where I tried dressing, was this head, I think even in this wig, on a live body, and it took me like an hour to figure out what to put on her, and I still wasn't happy with it. Meanwhile, when I put this head on this Descendants body with the top of the neck was sanded off. I don't know if I pointed that out before, which that just helps the body and head go together a lot better than the original weird bulgy top neck knob, bulgy neck top body that the Descendants had, which was obviously, you know, kind of ripping off the Monster High bulgy body neck top. Anyway, I got this head on this body and she just like dove into the clothes. I didn't even think about this outfit, and I just kept adding stuff and adding stuff. So this is definitely the good body for this head because it just made her so easy to dress, even with the large feet, which I don't usually care about large feet, but I mean, I figured I would never put any doll in these ridiculous shadow high shoes, but it's just, it works for her. So I am very happy that this random Descendants body with the edited neck came here and finally solved the problem of what body this head should go on. So that was nice. Then I decided to take, you know, those two dolls that Ethan had painted that were both on Monster High, Ever After High style bodies, which I just said I'm not fond of the way those bodies bulge out at the top of the neck. I have done things in the past where I cut the neck down. The necks are also excessively long because they're made for those big Monster High heads too, and Ever After High heads, which jut out in dimensions and make the neck not look as long. But when you put any other kind of head on those bodies, for me personally, it just doesn't work. And I do have a method of cutting the neck and making it shorter, but it involves acetone goo, and I just didn't want to do that. So I'm not fond of those bodies, so I got the head, the Tinkerbell, Jack Specific Tinkerbell friend head, off of the body without destroying the body, which was a feat in itself because you know how delicate the neck pegs are on those Monster High and Ever After High style bodies. And I opened up the neck on this head and I put it on another Descendants body. Now this does have the bulge at the top of the Descendants neck, but this head's big enough that it works. And I also, with apologies, pried off all the glued on hair that this head had. It was cute, but I like hair that can, even though this wig doesn't have a lot of options for styling, if I still want to put a bunch of hair clips or whatever into it, or even like ponytails, pigtails, I'll still be able to. I do like relatively stylable hair. Plus now it can show off her little pointy ears, and I think she just has a vampire feel to her overall. So this a lot of fun. And yes, once again, I am putting Rainbow High shoes on the Disney Descendants body. I don't know why. I only recently figured out that Rainbow High shoes fit the Disney Descendants feet. So I'm happy with the way she turned out. I mean, the Descendants body's not great. I mean, I already feel that she's got, you know, weak knees, but it works really well. This is the Hasbro Descendants body. I actually don't have any of the Mattel Descendants bodies yet. I'm sure I will eventually. But the Hasbro Descendants bodies have their uses. And then the other head that Ethan painted, I pried the hair off. The green and red hair was cute in a watermelon kind of way, but again, it wasn't the kind of thing that I thought I would use. And that head, I hadn't realized, the Kuku Harajuku head, I'm not really familiar with them. I hadn't realized until I started trying to take it off that it has very probably been acetone shrunk, which means it is smaller than it was originally, but also it is very, very hard. And you can soften a hard acetone shrunk vinyl head, but I was worried that it would damage the face up. So I did try applying heat like obliquely, but it wasn't enough, and I did end up breaking the neck peg. But the Snap Stars shirt that body had been wearing, and again with apologies, stained the body, which I kind of thought it might because that Snap Stars shirt is a little and I should not put my feet on the tripod, should I? That Snap Stars shirt is a little infamous for having stained the bodies that it was on originally. So that neck pegless stained Ever After High style body is in the parts bin now. I'm sure I will find a use for it eventually. And so needed a new body for that head. And I decided to try it on Bo Peep, which putting this head on this body is a commitment. This head is not coming out of this body without destroying something. If you heat the head up enough for it to be soft enough to come off of the body without resistance, it's going to destroy the face up. Don't want to do that. If you just try to pull the head out as it is now, as hard as it is, it's going to destroy the neck peg. And there's a strong possibility that even if you could heat this head enough to make it soft enough to pull off the body, it would still destroy the neck peg because there's a big crack in the top of this body and the neck peg's not really securely in there anyway, but it's fine because I think this is a great combination. This is another doll that when I have tried putting dolls on the Bo Peep body in the past, I had problems dressing them because it just didn't really work out. But this head on this body, again, just flew into the clothes. Excuse to use one of my favorite pairs of curvy tall shoes. And this wig is something I had left over when I made the painted alien style LOL OMGs, which, yeah, I made a video about that too. I can't remember if I left the, I won't say failed wig, I can't remember if I left the footage in where I tried to make this wig and it didn't work out and I abandoned it and started with another wig. But, so I've had this wig sitting around for a while and I decided, for a laugh, which that's what I do with a lot of things, try it for a laugh, to put it on this head, and I think it's a great combination. And this is also from Queen of Squids. Queen of Squids crocheted this. So there is almost as much Queen of Squids in this video as there is Barbie's gay best friend. Because that's the fun of the doll community, is working together and bouncing ideas off of each other. So that's her. I'm gonna have to give her a name for a file, right? I used to name my dolls purely for file saving purposes. I don't give my dolls personalities, I don't give them backstories, it's just not the way I approach dolls. I am genuinely tempted to name her Snow Cone, though. If I don't just call her BGBF Cuckoo Harajuku on Bo Peep, because that's how most of my dolls get named now, is where they're from and what they're made up of. Anyway, happy with her. And we are almost done. How much time has this been? Okay, I guess this is going to be about the same amount of time as the unboxing, because I am trying to go through things fast, which I'm not doing right now, am I? A doll that I did pretty much nothing with aesthetically is the Peggy Von Plasty. I did have to carve a lot of hip melt off of her because these very soft legs and her very hard plastic, and she obviously had been stored someplace untouched for decades, and that's why she's in such great condition. But when you store an old doll like this without moving them, things will start melting, very probably. So I did carve a lot of the melt off of the hips. And this is a dress that I also made recently from a handkerchief. Not fabric from Queen of Squids, but using a handkerchief for dresses. Something that I've always wanted to do, but actually doing it lately has been inspired by Queen of Squids. So that is Peggy Von Plasty. And just Barbie shoes. Not the best match Barbie shoes, but that's fine. It's the dress. She's cute. And then the Cycling Sherry Yuko-chan. Her body was in good condition for what it was, but the Cycling Sherry Yuko-chan body is not really great because the whole point of it is to be a gimmick. You put it on the bicycle and the knees flop up and down as the bicycle itself rolls. And so I actually put that head on the A-Zone style body that the Icy used. And it's, I won't say it's a perfect match, but it's a really, really good match. Now, normally I do like to put vintage style heads on vintage style bodies and not on super modern bodies, but even though this is a relatively modern body, it was more or less designed to go with older style Japanese doll heads. Even modern doll heads, modern Japanese doll heads, is still with the more anime, older, cute style retro. Anyway, good match. I'm happy with it. Put her in one of the dresses that I made recently with more die cut squares. And then that gets us to the last doll, who was the source of that body. And that's, I'm just going to go ahead and hold her up, that's the Icy. And I did get her onto that Tycho Babysitters Club body. It took some engineering, mainly to get it to not be floppy, because it was really floppy on that A-Zone body. It was floppy on the first few tries of a neck connector I made for this. What I eventually ended up doing is taking out the actual neck peg that this body originally had. And it took me a while. It's not like this is my first approach to make it work. I had to experiment and go through a lot of different trials and errors before I ended up doing this. So I took that neck peg out. I filled in the neck cavity with acetone goo. And I went and found a screw. And I know people worry about metal inside doll heads, but there's metal in the spring inside this, so you can't avoid metal inside a Blythe style doll head, so I don't worry about the metal. Also, stainless steel, not going to have the green corrosion problem that brass had. And a lot of dolls do have problems with the brass, like not only Green Ear on Barbie, but like Darcy Covergirl has brass in her joints, so eventually that brass will start verdigreeing, and that verdigris will migrate through the outside of the vinyl, and then you have your green stains on the doll. They can't be removed because they come from within. Stainless steel, not going to have that problem. Not saying stainless steel doesn't have any problems, just not that problem, and I'm rambling, aren't I? Anyway, so I found a long stainless steel screw, and I ended up putting a bit of like a cylinder of plastic on the top of the neck, and that's enough to raise the head a little bit, because if you had just put this head straight on top of the neck, it would have been on the shoulders. I know it's pretty close, but Blythe also has a very short neck. So anyway, so there's a disc much wider than the top of the neck, a few millimeters thick on top of the neck. And then the head connects, the front and the back is like a U-shaped groove that meets against a flat piece of plastic. So where the U-shaped groove is, is the right word? Never mind. Where the U-shaped cutout is, I have a bit of like soft plastic, silicone type. I think it's silicone. If it's a soft plastic with plasticizer, I do acknowledge that it will eventually start melting, but it's okay if it melts to the inside of the neck, because it is turning around on the screw itself as the pivot and not turning around against the plastic, if that makes sense. And then on top of it, there's another disc of flat plastic that I just found. I think it was actually, I had a cheap blow-molded doll where the parts punched out to put the leg in hadn't detached completely. And it's like, oh wow, free plastic, I can use this for something, and I put that in my parts bin, and that was perfect. So that's on top. So it's a sandwich of a wide disc of plastic, a little bit of soft plastic, and then another wide disc of rigid plastic. And then I put the screw through all of those, and the screw is just long enough that it not only went through all of the acetone goo, but also bit just into the cross brace supports inside the body, and that head's pretty fairly well attached. However, it is me, so try as I might, I could not get the screw to go in straight. So she has a little jaunty tilt to her neck, tilt to her head. I don't think it's too obvious. Even if it is, let's call that some personality. So yes, I'm very happy with this head on this body. The match isn't great, but it's good enough. And it's just funny how uncanny valley Blythe she ends up looking, because the body is close to Blythe. And of course the icy head is close to Blythe, but they're not actually Blythe. So I am very happy with this combination. And that's the last doll I have to show you. I hope you had fun seeing what I did. I hope what I said about what I did made sense. And thank you for watching.